All right, we're back. So I added a new monitor onto the setup, and the monitor decided to take over my entire audio system, and I still little bits and pieces, although I checked everything else. Okay, so let's start back. You don't learn by following rules. Remember that. Craig Morrell's on the show. Want to get him going because he's got time limits. Craig Morrell, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Glenn? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, bro,
Don't buy new monitors. That's the lesson for today.
dude. I one of these days, I'll be a real man. One of these days.
By the way, I just checked the audio. It looks good.
Awesome, good. Will, I want to shout out to you. Thank you, because we would have went through the entire thing, even though we did our sound tests, even though we went through the whole process right before the sound. All of a sudden, anyway. Will,
it's a joke of Monday. How many tech guys does it take to get a podcast running?
I know, it's like, and it's like,
do.
It is exactly what we do too, which is so stupid, dude. Oh my god, I'm so mad at myself. Anyway, welcome, and yeah. So if anybody to miss, here, let me summarize what Craig said. He said, that's, I appreciate the comments. I am blushing. This, that, and the third. We're on our way. So let's get to it, okay? So Craig, you went to Bristol. You're from Bristol. You went to Bristol Eastern. Oh, I'm a little choppy here too. It looks like. Hopefully, it's not choppy output.
No, I think that's fine. It's a slight delay, but it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, the slight delay is okay. Anyway, so you went to Bristol Eastern, then you moved and went to Lincoln Tech, and then Phoenix. Tell me about those three things. Like, what got you thinking about getting into website design, and that side of helping other businesses succeed? Was it in high school? Was it?
No, so I was the kid growing up. So yeah, I'm born and raised in Bristol, right here in Connecticut. I lived there for 37 years. I was the kid that, somebody would call and say, "Hey, my Xbox is broken. My mom's VCR doesn't connect." Like, I was the kid who just, like, I just knew what to push and all the buttons and just to make it work. Even to this day, there's still, like, we joke about it. It's the Craig aura, right? Like, if something's broken, just reach out to Craig, and then magically it's going to start working again, because that's just how it works. And then all good, right? So because of that, though, I always had a fascination with computers and the internet and business in general. Even like when we first got our first, like, compact Presario, man, I used to, like, print up images of South Park characters, and I would like sell them to kids in school because South Park was the cool thing at the time. And I'd make, I'd come home with like 20-30 bucks, and in middle school, my mom would be like, what are you doing? Right. So, computers and entrepreneurialism have, like, always been within me. I just didn't really know what it meant. When I graduated high school, though, I went to, it used to be called New England Tech. It was out of New Britain, and then it got bought up by Lincoln Tech. But originally the thought was, my mom was going to send me there for, just computer programming, right? So it was a general technical school. It was meant to, like, you choose what you want to do. So we did stuff for A+, for network certification, and then we did programming based. And basically what I learned was how to deal with building websites and doing administrative backlog type stuff. So just database stuff, nothing crazy. So that was cool. I kind of enjoyed that. So I was just kind of building some websites. And then I ended up working for a self-storage company, totally boring, brain dead work. And at the time, they allowed us to basically apply for college credits, and they would reimburse us and pay for a lot of that type of stuff. So I applied to University of Phoenix. It was all primarily online. This was before online school was a thing. So I ended up getting my degree in marketing with a focus on branding. It was a lot of, like, color theory and palettes and design, aesthetics, and anything that had to do with basically building a brand persona, and what that looks like from like a psychological standpoint. So that was really cool. I finished there, and then basically I got hired by a large national advertising company. Most of you guys know them as Yellow Pages. They've changed hands like 15 times, but that's kind of the start how I got into, call it, web, internet marketing, sales, and, like, that general world, like in a nutshell.
So, so basically, all right. So you're the go-to guy from day one.
Yeah, I didn't know I was gonna like it so much, to be honest with you. Um, I got into it because I was like, okay, they're offering at the time they were like, oh, it's a union job, you make 30 grand, and then you make whatever in commission. And I was like, all right, cool. I didn't know anything about sales, so I didn't really think anything of it. But they're like, we're gonna hire you primarily because you know about some sort of internet thing ish. And if you know anything about Yellow Pages, man, it's the phone book, bro. It's
Yeah.
phone book. And at the time, I was, I don't know, 24 years old. So I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good. And they're like, by the way, if you sell one of these things on paper, we'll pay you a boatload of money for it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm going in. This is like just fresh out of college, 20-something-year-old kid, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sell some internet products. This is what I believe in. This is what I know. And if I sell some paper, it's good. But I made a lot of money doing it. But caveat to that, I also learned about a lot of the struggles that people had as a small business and what they were trying to do and why they actually advertise and why they put some faith into these people, whomever it may be, whether it's, Yellow Pages people, marketing people, whatever it is. And I just loved it. I love people's passion for their business and they just do whatever they got to do to make it work. And I love that.
Yeah, every one of us too. We all do this. It's a difficult grind. Like, this was year 2002.
So I graduated high school in 2003. Tech was 2005, 6, and then Phoenix was 9, 10.
So what I wanted to bring up though is that you were at the time where businesses were sort of realizing how valuable the internet, having a website and that stuff was. So you were like right at that break point.
Yeah. It was definitely the starting point where it was primarily desktops. I mean, I remember getting my first Apple iPhone and it was like kind of cool, but nothing was mobile. I mean, it wasn't a thing. So yeah, no, we had a few years until it was the phrase mobile-geddon. So yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And then it was funny because I did see a lot of things coming up saying everybody's going to be on mobile. And I was like, really? I don't see myself doing that. But then again, I was reading that on a mobile. And I was the first one to have, I had the first, and I'm going to remember my Apple iPhone 3GS was my very first Apple.
Sounds right for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the time.
The first one that had video or something to it. Yeah.
And it's funny because we talked a little bit about this before the cast and how some older business owners are still, good morning, Anthony. Thanks for joining, my dude. Some older business owners are still in that kind of phase, right? Like we still have these clients that kind of come up and have no online presence and they're still living in the Yellow Pages era.
Yeah. It's wild. I look at some sites and I am shocked in 2024 when I still have to pinch to look at their website. And I'm like, why is this still a thing?
Yep.
And like you scroll down, you look at the footer where it says this was recently updated. You're like 2024. You're like, you're a liar. This was not updated. Yeah. You're a liar. Drives me nuts.
Wilfredo, thank you for joining me. Good morning to you, my friend. I want to talk about something else though. And yeah. I found this funny about your past. And and the reason why I remember this is because I don't know if it was you approached me, but someone approached me. I used to have with my ex-wife a cake shop called Kenzie Cakes, and we were approached by this particular company. I have a very vague memory, but it was called MiFi, and you were very involved with MiFi for a little bit.
Yes.
Tell me more about MiFi. Like what was it? Tell me how, like, why it was important and. I think it's kind of still important.
Yeah. So this is all pre-COVID. There was a big push for basically data collection, and it's called My Wi-Fi Networks. It was a system that you basically get like this little router. You place it in a physical business. It grants guest Wi-Fi to people who are visiting the location, and you can sign in with social media networks or your email or your phone number. On the back end, what it does is it basically was collecting names and emails and information from your guests that are visiting just for getting access to your local Wi-Fi. Really cool system. It was I liked it a lot. When you go into a restaurant or any other place, it was just great for data collection, and it's seamless. Because pre-COVID, like some cell phone plans had limited or like not great, cell service, or Wi-Fi just was hard to find, and you didn't want to just like let them in from an IT standpoint because a big mess, right? So I seen it as like a really nice, easy way to implement and help people build a list. We all know our customer lists are super important, and it was just passive, dude. It was just super passive. So yeah, so in the early like mid 2000s, I was like 16, 17, 18. Yeah, I met with a guy. His name, he went by Kevin Z. He posted up on one of those warrior forums, which is like an SEO black hat type of situation, that he was coming out with this product. So I was an early buy-in on that. I spent a bunch of money on hardware. To this day, I literally still have like Wi-Fi hotspots that I'll never be able to get rid of. But yeah, you literally just plug it in, you connect it, and it was great. It was super branded, and it's a nice system. It's a nice system, but COVID killed me on that. So I stopped doing it, to be honest with you.
So tell me now, like, okay, and the reason why I brought this up, because in relationship to businesses today, although that didn't quite work out as well, the value wasn't so much in offering the Wi-Fi to customers and enhancing their customer experience, but that list.
The list.
How would somebody in a business, if they didn't have any kind of service, how would they utilize the name, telephone number, email?
Yeah. So collecting names, emails, phone numbers as much as humanly possible and sticking it in a database has so much value, because throughout the year, you're going to have fire sales, offers, promotions, events, things that you do that are great, right? And your revenue is going to skyrocket. You're going to be like, yeah, we had a killer month. But everybody knows throughout the year, you're going to have slow periods. And those are the times that when you can call on that list, it's gold, right? Like, let's say you're an electrician, right? And you're out, and let's say, December's slow because it's that season, right? Maybe you send out a reminder. It says like, hey, you know what? The Christmas tree needs too many plugs, or you want to put up some new lights, or you want to do something that's really cool. Maybe send out that list to 1,000 people you've been collecting, and guess what? You pull in a dozen of them. Like, hey, you know what? I would like to have a plug up there, so next year when we run the lights, it's easy. Or you need one of those like things that goes on your roof that melts ice. You never know, and that list is golden. The biggest fail that I find for most businesses is they just don't collect that list, and they don't care about their contact lists. So they end up having to pay, with all due respect, people like you and me to run advertising to build a list. So it's like, just nurture your list, just build it however you can, and call on that when you need to start bringing in some sales, and keep yourself reminded out in the marketplace,
Exactly. And we had that conversation a little earlier, because I have a client that just refuses to build that list. Now, tell me how, for a small business with a low budget, can you give a simple tip on how they can collect and utilize the list at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when you do business with somebody, whether you're standing right in front of them or they've contacted you through your website or whatever, you should have your card, and then maybe on the back of it, put a QR code that just goes to, requesting a review or collecting. You should have their information, quite frankly, that way. But I do something to just collect information. Run a survey. Run a special. Throw out a gift card. Whatever you want to do. Build a list. Build a list.
What we call them in the industry is a lead magnet. When a lead magnet. So what I suggest that somebody would do, at least give some kind of value, whether it's a tip, trick, newsletter, PDF, download, any one of those things, or just like Craig mentioned, a gift card. So a lead would cost roughly, what do we, $8 to $26 per person, right? So
yeah, depending on industry, even something more expensive. Just shy of 100, depending on industry. Yeah,
it really gets expensive.
Really expensive.
When I say, if you have a restaurant and that cheesecake, your cost to that cheesecake, so offer the free cheesecake, but your cost is $1.80 per plate, right? for that cheesecake, but it's massively valuable to the person, and they're totally willing to put that information on a card to get that free cheesecake. So that's an awesome way to do that. Um, any kind of a small thing that costs you less is going to be less than the cost of paying myself for Craig to get that lead for you. Anthony is in the chat. He said, if people looking to accommodate commercial customers versus private consumers, do you think LinkedIn connections are more valuable than email and phone list? I feel like both.
Both. I would take LinkedIn and I would consider it a place to just keep yourself visible. You also got to keep in mind, those are always business professional people. So you don't want to over inundate them with too much consumer-based information. So really know your audience in that regard. Just they're professionals. So make sure you keep it focused on that. Need to move your office, need to move your location, need to add another location. We'd love to help you with that. We move stuff.
So the next thing I want to talk about is the automation. And so automation prior to AI was a different animal than it is today. Tell me about automation practices before, and then give me what you're working on in AI driven automation.
Yeah, so it's like common theme with most business owners. Most of them are very busy. They don't want to have to do all these little administrative tasks like putting in the name and the email and the phone number and blah, 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 right? So if you can find easy ways to move, data input to data output, that's a really just simple way to do stuff. If you can connect things to a Google Sheet or an Excel file, that is list building. Use the mechanisms in place. I know in my world, I connect as many things as possible. Like, for example, when we do a website, if I'm meeting with a client and I see that they are oftentimes posting on Instagram, like let's say they're a landscaper and they do like cool yard lines and they like making it all pretty, right? And they post it on Instagram. I want to make sure that the Instagram feeds to their website. And then what we'd like to do is, let's just say their Instagram is connected through their DMs. We'll take that information. They'll send a message. Hey, if you like this, comment on one of our posts, and then set up some sort of automation. This is where I'll segue into the new world stuff, where we'll basically ask like, hey, thanks for following us. Can you give us your email? We'd love to keep you updated. Or if we have a new thing going on, we'd love to connect you. So use the tools that are in place to just automate, collect that information, keep it simple. And don't make it strenuous. Automation is a beautiful thing. Like, don't make it an extra job.
So what do you see in the future? Now that we have AI coming in, how do you see AI playing a role in that automation?
That's tough because even when you give it the best pre-prompts and information, and then like design an assistant really well, it's still not perfect. I mean, it's still not your voice. And I've created a few that follow my, laid back demeanor as well as I possibly can. So you can literally just pop in a question and answer and it kind of feels like me, but it's still not me, So I'm going to say people are still the most important part. Relationships and connecting with people on a personable level are still the most valid. Visually is very important. If you can FaceTime with somebody, if you can live chat with somebody like visually and like you see that they're a human, do it. Again, and I say this, but there are hundreds of AI clones of me on the internet. I just want you to be full aware of this. But it's just important. Those human touches, man, when they know that I'm talking to Craig or I'm talking to, anybody, right? Like, personal, right? And like I think that's where AI it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really hard.
And you're 100% right on that, because I did discover all of your AI videos. I went through them, and you're right. You can still tell even today that it's not. There's just something that's missing in that personal kind of connection. And even when AI writes the post these days, you can kind of tell. One of the tactics I do, and this is good for business owners, again, on low budgets, is utilize AI, but then rewrite it and add your stuff in. And if the AI is not speaking from you, you say, hey, this doesn't sound like me. How about this? And expand. Don't just settle for the initial response from the AI. AI is a great tool, but it is far from perfect at this point.
Now I'm gonna butt in and I'm gonna say, don't let this be a reason to not use it,
Ex-
because I will absolutely tell you, me being virtually present as often as I am with AI has absolutely brought me in leads. And I will also tell you, most consumers, even though they realize that AI is a thing, they are oblivious to it. They still don't even understand how Google search works. So the more you could still show your face and be present and like have those continual pieces of data going out there, even if it's AI, do it. Do it.
So I want to talk a little bit about, because I'm going to segue, because this is exactly what you said in the nutshell is relationship marketing. Um, I've learned that from Matt Miali. It's not so much as a student of him, but I've absorbed a lot. Talk to me about what's the importance of relationship marketing to you, and how a small business and somebody starting out can do the same thing.
So it's because it's about relationships, it's really about understanding where they are as a business, understanding their point of view on and how they're interpreting the information, and then also trying to put yourself in their customer shoes. You know, one of the biggest things that I always find, and this is something for you too, Glenn,
Mm.
is look at your competitors' reviews and diagnose a little bit about where their downfalls may be. You know, they say everybody says a lot of good things in reviews, but if you really read between the lines, you'll understand where some of your competitors might be shortfalling, and then you can capitalize on those types of things. So let's just say, let's use Will, right? He's Game Day Men's Health, right? Let's just say he was looking at other men's facilities and looking through their reviews. He should probably get a better understanding of like, okay, how personable is their staff? How many times do they communicate? Is it just like a wham bam, thank you, dad type of thing? Like, what does it look like to really diagnose how they're doing business so we can capitalize on those little pieces? It's just, relationships are super important, and it is literally the little unifying thing that makes you go, I want to work with this guy versus this guy. you know um it's just super important. If I knew Will before I went to where I go to now, I'd probably be like, hey man, I'll swing down to Salt Lake. It's no big deal. So it's just, you like to work with people because you just feel like shaking hands and having a business relationship with somebody is way more valuable than just whatever else is out there.
So
People is important.
people are important, and then you couldn't have put that any better. Now, I want to give a little bit of value. How would somebody do that on to scale? Now, let's say they have lots of clients and how do you make a relationship? How do you practice relationship marketing with 100 people, 1,000 people?
Honestly, that's going to be, so that's where it's going to turn into the sales and the account management portion of it, really. It's about, let's just say, so like in my business, I'm primarily the sales person and account manager in this world, in my own world. um I am working on having my sales development person like take on those sales roles, and then he'll move those people into account management with me. What it really comes down to is I need to turn that next person into the authority figure for it, and then leverage their knowledge and understanding and what they're focused on to really build up that value. And at some point, it's going to turn into, I'm not the account manager, and he's going to go, John's going to go, hey, John, this is Jennifer. I'm making up names, but this is Jennifer. She's actually our something that helps them expert on that. I want to get this relationship set up with you. And they're going to set up guidelines and onboarding and all of that type of thing. So eventually you start to remove yourself as the authority figure on that. And I'll do the same thing. Like, hey, I may be this thing, but you know what? I hire the best people in this world to help you with this thing. Let me get you connected with them. If you have any issues, please reach out to me, but I want to make sure that you're taken care of because this is the best person for your problem.
I love what you just said. That was exactly my thought process on all of that. And that's exactly what I learned from relationship marketing. And I just learned a new tip from you. Tell me now, as we're coming to the end of the cast here, there throughout your life, I want you to sort of picture yourself back in high school fixing those Xboxes up until now. If you could pick one moment in that time that defined who you are and changed your mindset, and what was the advice or person that helped you get there?
I went to um I went to a seminar somewhere between self-storage and working for the phone book. It was a Brian Tracy event. If you've ever heard of Brian Tracy, he was an author, a speaker. He was a very motivational guy. And I didn't know who he was at the time. I just got invited by a friend of mine. I went there and he talked about the philosophy of eat that frog. And eat that frog, book in a nutshell, is like basically it just means just freaking do it. Right. So like if you need to pick up the phone and make a phone call or send a text or do a FaceTime or drop in on a location or whatever is hard, go do it. Like literally go do it. Don't be a little bee, go do it. And that was like, for some reason, it just always stuck into my head where I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm going to be a little baby. I'm going to be a little baby and I'm going to be stuck in my world. I'm like, you know what? Just freaking eat the frog. Let's do the thing. Right. And I've just always kept that mentality. And if I needed to do something, man, I would just go do it. Like, I don't care. I'll go do it. I'll go make it freaking happen. And that's just always stuck to me. And to be honest with you, thank God. And I hate to bring up COVID, but like when all of that stuff was shutting down, right? And everybody's thinking about what am I going to do with making money and feed my family and all this other stuff. All these businesses are closed. I got accounts dropping off. People are like, Craig, I can't pay you. My doors are shut. I get it. The first thing I thought of was like, well, who's open? I'm going to call the people who are open because not everybody's closed. There's essential workers out there and they gotta do their thing. Do they want to spend some money? And I did. I just picked up the phone and I just started talking like, hey man, we're all closed. I don't have to go anywhere. So I don't got to risk you, but let's help build you some money while everybody else is trapped indoors and they want to do something different. Right. So eat that frog, just do it.
Bro, I love that. Eat that frog. I'm going to use that for the rest of my life now. I'm going to tell my kids, I'm going to tell my kids that today. Eat that frog. They're going to look at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah, Brian Tracy, man.
Yeah, I didn't because you were muted earlier, but I do want to say how much I appreciate meeting with you at Lake Compounds. We did a Halloween event. It was awesome. The two kids really connected immediately, and I'm looking forward to Penelope at Kenzie's birthday party.
I appreciate the invite. We'll be there. Awesome. I had to tell P your daughter's name like 6 times. She's like, Kenzie, Mackenzie. I'm like, yeah, Mackenzie or Kenzie, and she's like, yeah. So she's looking forward to it. So no, that was a good time, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the hand holding was so adorable. I mean, I'm gonna get a little vulnerable here, but that really got me. I was just like,
they're cute. Gosh. They're cute. Yeah. You know what it was? It was that moment of like Halloween. It's all spooky. Yeah. And then you got the 3 girls. Your youngest was like, I don't care about none of this. But your oldest was like, I got this. And then mine being 6 is like, well, you look helpful. I'm gonna be friends with you. Yeah. Like, okay. So.
Craig, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you, rearranging your schedule and getting on the cast. The amount of value that you have given this cast today, and appreciate you understanding the technical glitch. So frustrating, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Lesson for today: no new monitors.
No new monitors, or at least go double check and make sure your monitor is not taking over your audio.
For that,
Greg, thanks again, man. We'll see you soon. We're going to see you in like 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from now.
Yep.
All right, my dude. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, thank you so much for watching and understanding. Again, another technical glitch. Guys, I hope this is the very last one because, like I said, I'm trying to upgrade my tech so that this runs a lot better. We added a new monitor, which completely took over my audio, which was supposed to solve another problem, but created a new problem. But that's technology, and that's how it. Well, all I had to do was eat that frog, stop it, restart it, right? All right, guys. We will see you next Monday at 8 a.m. Thank you again for watching. Thank you so much for jumping in the chat. Anthony, Will, Wilfred, Will Boger, thank you so much for jumping in the chat and being, this is exactly what I was looking for. I want that interactivity. I will answer your questions. So next Monday, when we talk to our next person, get in that chat. We'll see you guys next Monday at 8 a.m.